Welcome to the Wealth Dialogue. I'm Emily.
And I'm Jack. In pretty much everyone's financial life, there is a moment, a specific point in time, when the stress just becomes too heavy. That low-grade anxiety finally peaks, and the denial we use as a shield, it just melts away. It's the moment you look up and say, I'm done.
Just enough.
Today, we are diving into that single crucial decision. We're not even talking about starting a budget yet. We're focusing entirely on that emotional tipping point.
That turning point.
That turning point when you declare your debt spiral is officially finished. Because the truth our sources confirm is that change doesn't start with a calculator. It starts with one decisive break inside your head.
That's it. That internal resolution is everything. I mean, people often focus exclusively on the mechanics, the interest rates, the spreadsheets, but they miss the core story.
Right.
Debt doesn't break when you create that spreadsheet. It breaks in your mind first. Understanding that mental breaking point, what causes it, and what to do immediately after it. Well, that's the real mission of this deep dive.
So we've got a clear path for you today. We're going to analyze what that insidious feeling of sinking is actually like. We'll identify the small, often insignificant triggers that cause the mental snap. And most critically, we're going to extract a simple, 6-step, immediately actionable plan for the moment you decide it's time.
Let's do it.
Okay, let's unpack this emotional state first.
Yep.
We call it a debt spiral. And yeah, it sounds dramatic, but for the person living it, it's often quieter.
So much quieter.
What is the fundamental shared experience of living under that constant weight? What's the sensation our listeners will immediately connect with?
The primary sensation is what we call sinking slowly. This is the crucial distinction, right? It's not a sudden, dramatic event.
You don't just wake up one day drowning.
Exactly. It's not like falling off a cliff.
No.
It's an incremental, exhausting process where you lose ground inch by inch, day after day. You almost get used to the pressure.
That slow pressure is what makes it so easy to ignore, isn't it?
Exactly. The behavior patterns the sources describe are, well, they're universal. You manage to make the minimum payments.
Just enough.
Just enough to keep the wolves at bay. But then you look at the balance, and it has either barely moved, or
it's gone up.
Or, thanks to compounding interest and fees, it's actually slightly higher than it was last month. And that consistent failure to make any measurable progress is just, it's soul-crushing.
And what does that do to you mentally?
That failure leads directly to emotional avoidance. I mean, this is the real hallmark of the spiral.
Okay.
You stop opening the mail with the bank logo on it. You avoid checking your balance on the app. You tell yourself, I'll fix it next month. I just need to get past this birthday or this holiday.
There's always a reason.
Always. You rationalize small, expensive purchases because I deserve it, even though you can't afford it. And that cycle of avoidance and rationalization, it builds this financial wall around you until the anxiety is just a constant low-level hum you barely notice anymore.
I think everyone knows that moment when you move the bank envelope from the kitchen counter to a drawer, promising you'll look at it later. That act of just moving it. That is exactly that feeling of rationalized avoidance. And what you're saying is that constant low-grade stress, that normalized feeling of slow incremental decline, that is precisely the environment that prepares you for the breakthrough moment.
You're saturated with it.
You're saturated with stress. You're just waiting for a change.
Yeah.
But that slow burn can last for years.
Yeah.
So what is the catalyst? If the avoidance is so perfected, what actually happens, it makes someone just slam their fist down and declare, I'm done.
Yeah, that's the thing.
We need to move from the abstract anxiety to the concrete trigger.
What's truly fascinating is that the trigger is almost always something mundane. People wait for a grand collapse, a job loss, a foreclosure.
Something huge.
Something huge. But those dramatic events, they often paralyze people. The mental breaking point, the point of resolution, usually comes from a seemingly minor inconvenience that just serves as the last straw.
The last straw, okay.
The sources show it's an event that exposes the lie of control. It might be a declined card when you're trying to buy something you thought you could easily afford.
Right.
It could be forgetting a small, easily manageable bill that suddenly gets a $35 late fee and it just shatters your feeling of competence. Or even something as quiet as a Friday night spent scrolling social media and suddenly realizing everyone else seems to have their life together and the emotional exhaustion just, it finally catches up.
That seems completely counterintuitive. Why would a massive, life-altering change be triggered by something so trivial? Shouldn't the trigger match the scale of the debt?
Because the goal of the trigger isn't to create financial ruin.
Ah,
The goal is to break the psychological structure of denial, the elaborate, exhausting juggling act someone uses to keep the debt concealed and managed. It's fragile.
okay.
So when that system fails over something minor, a $6 coffee, a $12 subscription fee, it's humiliating, it's shocking. The shock isn't financial, it's emotional. It's that moment the mind realizes, I have absolutely no control over my life, not even over the small stuff.
So the trigger is the necessary shock, that personal financial slap in the face that forces you to stop moving and actually face the numbers.
Exactly.
We need a real-world example of this small moment flipping an entire financial life.
We have a perfect anecdote from the source material. It involves a person who was deep into the avoidance stage, juggling multiple credit cards.
Right.
They admitted their debt wasn't, astronomical. It was just incredibly messy.
A mess.
Yeah, they were constantly shifting balances, using one card to pay another, never really knowing the true status of any single account. The entire financial house of cards was built on motion and concealment.
Sounds exhausting.
Right. The breaking point came one afternoon when they tried to buy a coffee, specifically a $6 latte. When they swiped the card, it declined. Yeah. They had enough money in their checking account, but the specific credit card they used was maxed out, and they hadn't realized how close to the absolute limit they were running.
The public failure of a $6 purchase is the thing that finally brings the whole system crashing down.
Precisely. The experience in that coffee shop, the embarrassment, the anger, the profound disappointment in themselves, that was the true pivot point.
I can feel that.
That evening, instead of doing their usual avoidance routine, they sat down, pulled up every single statement, and added up every dollar across every account. It took hours.
Wow.
And they saw the true, horrifying full sum for the very first time.
The number.
Seeing that total number, instead of just feeling the anxiety of the minimum payments, that was the moment of complete surrender. That's when the verbal decision was made, I'm done.
So it wasn't the feeling of juggling.
No. It was facing the cold, hard reality of the full sum. It forced them out of avoidance and into stark reality.
That moment is so powerful because it channels all that fear and humiliation into motivation.
Okay, so let's assume our listener has just had their moment. They've seen the number, they've made that internal declaration, and they have this massive rush of energy. But that energy can burn out quickly. What are the first 6 steps they have to take immediately before the overwhelm or the denial creeps back in? We need a clear, action-based list that prioritizes momentum.
Absolutely. We move from emotion to implementation instantly. The key here is immediate action, not long-term perfection.
Okay.
Step 1. Freeze all spending for 48 hours. This is crucial. Stop all non-essential purchases. No coffee, no takeout, no impulsive online shopping.
Yeah.
Nothing. The rationale is purely neurological. You need to give your brain a cognitive gap. You are breaking the habitual consumer reward cycle that likely got you into this mess. That 48 hours is like clearing the runway before the flight can take off. You are resetting your consumption baseline.
So it's about decoupling the stress from the spending, even for a short time. That makes a lot of sense. What's next? Step 2. Write down the total debt number every single dollar, and this has to be visible.
Not just in your head.
No. Put it on paper, put it on a whiteboard, put it in a dedicated spreadsheet. Facing the number, putting a definitive figure on your foe, it removes its power. Debt thrives in the shadow of mystery and avoidance.
Right.
You can't conquer what you won't look at, and this total figure is your enemy's face.
This is where that post-coffee embarrassment turns into resolve. You use the shame to force yourself to confront the reality.
Precisely. Which leads to step 3. Identify and eliminate one small expense today, not tomorrow.
Today.
Do not wait for some detailed budget meeting with yourself next week. Cancel that streaming service you barely use. Eliminate one eating out purchase you planned for tonight. Call the gym and freeze your membership. The rationale is that momentum matters more than initial perfection.
You need a win.
You need a quick, tangible win, a psychological reward that overrides the fatigue of the long journey ahead.
Okay, but wait. If someone owes, say, $50,000, why would canceling a $10 subscription matter at all? Isn't that just avoiding the real problem, which is the $50,000?
And that is the critical point. It is not about the $10.
Okay.
If you are deeply motivated but completely overwhelmed, your brain defaults to inaction. By forcing yourself to do a tiny, actionable thing like calling to cancel an unwanted expense, you deliver a neurological reward. You prove to yourself, I am capable of changing my financial circumstances right now.
I see.
That small victory creates the necessary fuel to tackle the much larger problem. It's an exercise in agency.
That reframes the entire purpose of the first 3 steps. It's not about the money. It's about building a psychological foundation for the marathon ahead.
Yes. Next, step 4. Tell one trusted person. This is a monumental shift from silent avoidance to open ownership.
That sounds hard.
It's hard, but it's essential. It could be a spouse, a partner, a close friend, a mentor. Tell them your total number and your goal. Accountability changes everything because it externalizes the commitment. When your motivation dips, and it will, you have someone to lean on who knows the severity of your commitment.
Good point.
Step 5. Rank all your debts. Organize them into a clear hierarchy. This shifts you from that general anxiety to tactical strategy. You need a target list.
Yep.
Rank them either by the smallest balance first, which feeds the psychological momentum of the snowball method,
Right.
or by the highest interest rate first, which prioritizes the mathematical efficiency of the avalanche method.
And since we just mentioned those 2 methods, we should probably clarify for the listener, what's the quick distinction between snowball and avalanche?
It's simple. The debt snowball focuses on attacking the debt with the smallest dollar amount first, no matter the interest rate. You pay it off quickly, you get that psychological win, and then you roll the money you were paying on that smallest debt into the next smallest. It's all about motivation. The debt avalanche ignores the balance and focuses purely on the math, attacking the debt with the highest interest rate first. This saves you the most money over time.
So one is built for the mind and the other is built for the ledger.
Exactly. Which brings us to the last step. Step 6. Choose one payoff method, snowball or avalanche, and commit fully. The sources strongly emphasize this. No mixing.
Stick to one.
Do not try to dabble in both. The worst thing you can do is paralyze yourself with indecision or dilute your efforts. Consistency and clarity of path are key. Choose the one that best suits your personality. If you need motivation, choose snowball. If you are disciplined and want mathematical optimum, choose avalanche. But choose and stick to it.
This list is powerful because it uses that rush of emotional energy to power the first 6 actions. A mental reset, confrontation of reality, agency, accountability, and finally, committing to a concrete strategy. It's a roadmap that's doable today, not someday when you feel perfectly ready. We've truly unpacked the emotional reality of sinking debt, identified why those small, often embarrassing moments serve as the most effective triggers, and laid out the 6 critical, immediate first steps after the decision is made. This knowledge equips you not just with what to do, but understanding when to do it right at the point of highest internal motivation.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, it just reiterates that major financial success is so often preceded by an emotional choice. The moments that truly matter in finance are not the flawless execution of a budget. They're the decisive emotional turning points when you choose to stop the spiral.
The internal change has to come first.
That internal change must precede the external success, and you have to use that initial intense feeling.
And to wrap this all up, there's one final, I think, profound thought to carry forward. The decision to end the spiral is typically triggered by something minor, something you should have been able to handle easily, like a $6 decline, not a massive life-altering catastrophe. So, reflect on whether you are subconsciously waiting for a big sign, a major disaster to force your hand, when in reality, the small daily annoyances, the avoided statement, the low-level anxiety, the constant pressure are already telling you everything you need to know.
Signs are already there.
They're there. Your moment to stop the sinking can be today. Go take that first small necessary step.